The galaxy had a word for Earth. Not a kind one. 217 spacefaring civilizations. Beings who had cracked the secrets of faster-than-light travel. Who had mapped the gravitational eddies between galaxies. Who had watched stars be born and die. Looked at our little blue planet and collectively decided on a single classification. Not orthodox space. They were wrong. And today we're going to talk about the exact moment they found that out.
Welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. Today we have a story. A big one. Pull up a chair because this is going to take us about an hour. And I promise you, every minute is worth it. This is Ceaser HFY. Humanity, F yeah. And before we're done today, you're going to feel every single letter of that. Hit subscribe if you want more like this. Drop a comment when we get to the part that gives you chills. And trust me, you'll know which part. Let's go.
The Galactic Conclave had met 4,412 times in recorded history. Earth had been invited to exactly 0 of them. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a bureaucratic oversight or a clerical error in the vast translation matrices that hummed between star systems. It was a deliberate, collective, unanimous choice. Made by 217 spacefaring civilizations who had looked at humanity's little blue marble, cross-referenced it against their threat assessment models, and arrived at the same conclusion.
Not orthodox space. The Dirvan called us the Wet Ones. The Celeric Collective referred to Earth in administrative shorthand as Sector 7 Gaminal, a designation typically reserved for asteroid fields and uninhabited moons. The Keth, who fancied themselves the galaxy's poets, had a single word for humanity that translated loosely as a species that will outgrow its star before it outgrows its wars. They weren't entirely wrong about the wars. They were catastrophically wrong about everything else. Ambassador Lyra Vasquez had been humanity's unofficial liaison to the galactic community for 11 years, which meant she had 11 years of experience being politely redirected, subtly condescended to, and occasionally physically escorted from conference halls by beings twice her height and a quarter of her patience. She was good at her job. She was very good at her job, which is why, when the Dirvan hegemony announced they were annexing the outer asteroid belt, Earth's outer asteroid belt, without consultation, she didn't raise her voice. She sent a single 2-line communique. Please reconsider. Earth does not issue second warnings. The hegemony prime chair, a magnificent creature with 4 independent nervous systems and the combined intelligence of a small university, read the message. He forwarded it to his advisors. His advisors forwarded it to the Conclave's Standing Committee on Minor Species Affairs. The Standing Committee laughed. Not metaphorically, they produced a sound that translated roughly as laughter across 17 distinct biological categories. They proceeded with the annexation. Here is what the Conclave did not know. Here is what 217 civilizations, for all their vast intelligence, their ancient histories, their sophisticated cultural frameworks, failed to ask. They never asked what humanity had been doing. They assumed, as the powerful so often do, that silence meant inactivity. That patience meant acceptance. That a species not yet invited to the table must not yet be ready to sit at one. They were about to learn something important about assumptions. Here is something the galaxy did not know about humanity, because nobody had thought to ask. Humans have been watching for 3 decades. Since first contact, since the polite rebuffs, since the locked conference doors and the unanswered transmissions. A small, underfunded, stubbornly persistent division of Earth's unified government had been doing what humans do best when they feel cornered and underestimated. They had been preparing, not loudly, not with press releases or military parades. The project had no name on any public document. Its budget was buried in 17 layers of infrastructure spending. The scientists who worked on it called it, informally, and with a certain grim humor that humans tend to develop when they've been ignored long enough, the apology.
Because that's what it was. The thing the galaxy would one day owe Earth.
Dr. Reniko had spent 22 of those 30 years in a facility built beneath the Atacama Desert, where the air was too thin and too dry and too cold at night, and the stars burned with a clarity that made him feel both small and furious in equal measure. He was the project's chief architect. He was also, his colleagues frequently noted, the calmest man any of them had ever met. Not peaceful calm, not Zen calm, the kind of calm that belongs to a man who knows exactly what is coming and has decided he will not waste energy worrying about it. The galaxy thought we were primitive because we still had war. They didn't understand. War is what made us engineers. The problem with being a young, violent, ambitious species is that you pour your best thinking into weapons. The problem with being a young, violent, ambitious species that survives is that eventually you point those weapons somewhere useful.
Humanity had survived, barely, messily, with considerable collateral damage and a body count that made the galaxy's anthropologists write lengthy peer-reviewed papers about statistical improbabilities. And then they had turned that same furious ingenuity toward the stars. What they built over 30 years in the thin desert air was not a weapon. Not exactly. It was a deterrent, a message, a thing that said, we were here, we were watching, and we were not sleeping. It was also, undeniably, the most terrifying object ever constructed by a biological species in the recorded history of the galaxy. They called it Leviathan. Dr. Osei had posed a single question to his team on the first day of the project. He had written it on the whiteboard in his cramped Atacama office, and it had stayed there for 22 years, slightly smudged, the ink faded but still legible. The question was this: if you had to show an alien civilization something that made them feel, in their gut, in their ancient animal core, the way early humans felt looking at the ocean at night, what would you build? 22 years later, beneath the thin desert sky, they had their answer. The D-Arthur mining fleet arrived at the asteroid belt on a Tuesday. Earth time, which nobody outside the Sol system observed, but which felt symbolically appropriate to the humans monitoring the situation from 17,000 kilometers away. 47 ships. The hegemony's third extraction core. State-of-the-art by galactic standards. Efficient, heavily armored, moderately armed, and completely, utterly, catastrophically unprepared for what happened next. The first signal came from Commander Vasquez. She had been promoted in the 3 weeks since her warning went unanswered. She was no longer an ambassador. She had a new title, one that translated poorly into Standard Galactic, but that roughly meant the one who speaks for the thing behind her.
This is Commander Lyra Vasquez of Earth. You are in sovereign territory. You have 90 seconds to begin withdrawal. This is your one and only notification.
The Hegemony Fleet Commander, a decorated veteran of 4 border disputes, a calm professional who had handled disruptive minor species exactly 12 times in her career, sent back what her culture considered a magnanimous response. Your claim is noted and unrecognized. Earth holds no standing in galactic territorial law. We suggest you redirect your emotional communication to the Conclave's Minor Species Mediation Board, which meets on the first Thursday of every 3rd cycle. Good day. Commander Vasquez read the message. She read twice. Then she set down her coffee. Real coffee, grown in Colombia, one of the small pleasures she permitted herself on long watch shifts, and spoke one word into the open comm channel. Rennick, in the Atacama facility, now officially designated Facility 0, DR. Jose looked up from his console. He had been waiting 11 years for this exact moment. He had imagined it, rehearsed it, written 3 different versions of what he might say. He said, "Copy." He pressed a button. Nothing happened for 7 seconds. The Hegemony fleet went about its business. Sensor drones deployed. Mining surveys initiated. Someone in the fleet's administrative compartment probably filed a report on the human communication and marked it resolved, minor species, no further action required. Then the space between Earth and the asteroid belt moved. That's the only way the Hegemony's sensor logs would later describe it. In the inquiry that followed, in the 600 pages of analysis submitted to a stunned galactic conclave, space moved. Space did not typically move. Space was the medium through which objects moved. Space was background. Space was empty. This space was not empty.